Ladies and gentlemen, dreamers and doers, seekers of purpose and fulfillment, welcome to Passion on Purpose, the podcast that sets your soul on fire and ignites the spark within you. I'm your host, Steph Hilfer, and I'm beyond thrilled you're here. Passion on Purpose features leaders, experts, and sometimes me on center stage. We put the spotlight on visionaries, entrepreneurs, leaders, experts, and everyday heroes to share their journey of self-discovery, enthusiasm, and unwavering determination. We'll explore how they use their passion and purpose to fuel their brand. Alongside our leaders, we'll provide practical tips, actionable advice, and wisdom from our experts across various fields. So if you're ready to unleash your inner fire, shake off the doubts and insecurities, and pursue a life of All right, guys, we are back with another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. And I am so excited that we have crossed the bridge into the 100th episode. This is our 101 episode. As I mentioned last week on our 100th episode, I'm probably going to have to ruminate in this a few more weeks, guys. So just roll with me here. But it just is so mind-boggling that we're at past our 100th episode now. So many amazing people I've had the chance to meet with, talk to, bring to you through this little podcast goal dream of mine. It's really cool. It's really cool. So thank you for continuing to listen. Thank you for showing up. Thank you to my guests who keep showing up and sharing their passion and their purpose, inspiring and hopefully helping move the needle that business is about passion. Business is about purpose, and we don't have to brush that under the rug anymore, that we can bring that to the forefront of the exciting, cool things we're doing. That's my goal. That's my goal with this show. And really every guest that comes on has the chance to share that. And today's guest is absolutely going to bring a lot of amazing passion, I can already tell, and a lot of fun ways that we can get into his world. So without further ado, thank you so much, Dan Nicholson, founder of the Nth Degree CPAs, also has a book, also has a personal brand, is doing so many amazing things to get you out of your conventional mindsets around money and into the unconventional wealth ideas. So I'm going to let him share more about that. But as we always do, we're going to dive right in with our hard-hitting question. Dan, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right.
Let's go.
What is your why, Dan?
My why is helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs realize that the biggest risk in life is not living the life that you want.
Ooh. Talk about hitting home right off the bat.
Yeah, I was loving what you were saying in your intro about purpose. So that just really aligned with part of my kind of life mission.
Yeah, there's a quote I share, and I'll share it with you. The audience has heard it before, but I'll share it again. And the quote is, in the past, jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains. And in the future, they'll be about heart. And that was stated in 2017. And I truly believe then and definitely now, the future is now. We are in that future of business's heart. And passion, purpose, leading a heart-centric business is the only way that we can really bring heart to the forefront of business. So that is amazing. How did you land on such a succinct, clear why? Tell me a little bit about the journey to get there.
Well, it all starts with unlearning a lot of things I thought I knew about business. So I've got all the conventional things. So my personal brand, UTs, was unconventional, but I have the conventional things. I have business degrees, one of which is in accounting. Accounting is about conventions. I'm a CPA. Again, about conventions. I did a fellowship at the board that writes all the U.S. accounting standards. So I helped create another convention of sorts, and was in the corporate drudgery for several years. And what I describe as having meetings about future meetings on when we might do something in the future. And I was completely miserable because I'd always seen myself as an entrepreneur, like my identity growing up. And the reason why I went to business school was because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I found myself the other end of that and trying to reconcile all of it and kind of struggling. People kept hiring me because they'd see this great resume, And in the back of my head, thinking, you really shouldn't hire me. I'm going to be your best employee for like 3 months. And then I'm going to figure out how to get by. And I'm still going to be meeting expectations, but I'm going to be doing like the minimum. And then I'm going to probably get bored in like 2 years. I'm going to get another job because I should be self-employed. I should not be working for you, but you're going to hire me because my resume looks good and all those things. So finally, I gave myself permission to kind of marry my technical skills with my entrepreneurial desire, started 10th degree CPAs. And through the first 4 or 5 years, it was the constantly kind of getting punched in the face, realizing that the strategies I learned in business school are about maximizing shareholder value, but small business is about optimizing. And that's a totally different approach. And it's optimizing for what the business owner wants, what I would call
Mhm.
their solvable problem, their unique definition of wealth. And so it was through that realization of I need to shift from maximizing to optimizing and optimize towards what? The client's definition of wealth that I began to really start to define what that means and who the type of people that I should be working with. And it's those purpose driven entrepreneurs who want more than just a 10x some arbitrary number.
Yeah. Okay, we have to unpack because you said something that just so hilarious to me, especially as someone who broke free of the W-2 world at some
Mm,
point in her life. I
mm,
mean, just the fact that you just so openly shared, you're gonna hire me because my resume is great. I'm gonna work my butt off for the first few months, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna settle in. Like it is so. I am sure listeners and I'm sure you've shared that before in the past. I'm sure so many people relate to that.
mm,
And so many people who listen to this show, right? Solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, business owners who want to either break free from that or are actively, pursuing their passions and purpose.
mhm,
That's their story too.
mhm.
When did you were you I just find it fascinating because I feel like there's a little bit of me who did that, except for I always had a hard time doing the bare minimum,
Mm,
doing enough. But I do know that there was this kind of cyclical kind of journey with each career I already had where there's this momentous, beginning, and then there's kind of this taper out.
mm.
At what point for you were like, this, I can't do it anymore?
Well, I went through that cycle multiple times. So it was sort of
Hmm.
this pattern recognition of here I am. This is my fourth time where I've been really excited about this job and it's going to be different. And sure enough, 3 to 4 months in, it's not. And and I'm being a little bit hyperbolic about I'm going to do the bare minimum and
Right.
uh, but there's shades of truth to it. And I was spoiled at the start of my career. In particular, I mentioned the fellowship, and I'm right out of college, so I'm about as green as you can get. I'm going to this program, and it's the smartest people in accounting. They got PhDs, the director of research. He can cite every accounting standard verbatim. He can tell you what page it's on. It's like one of those just you can't even imagine someone has a brain like this. It's like a TV show character, his recall on things. And the level of respect and dignity that I was treated from these people who were like luminaries just was so staggering. It's like I was truly treated like a peer. And I didn't expect it. I was so intimidated by these folks. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. We're talking beforehand about we got very similar, grew up in similar types of neighborhoods, very, we'll call it gritty. Call
Yeah.
it, um, some of you that grew up in a gritty neighborhood, you know what we're talking about. Um, and and then I left and I went to this big global monolithic CPA firm. And the partners were like, I'm going to know your name when you've been here for like 7 years. And that chasm was so significant to me, just the difference in respect. And I became, some might say jaded, but to some extent, I would say enlightened by that experience
Yeah.
about, um, again, these people who they didn't owe me that level of respect. They didn't have to show me that because they are the best and the brightest. But here they are. And then I contrast that with people who are making it financially, but intellectually, they're not at the same level and they just care about the hierarchy. And that really change the way that I thought about who I was willing to work for and what I was willing to do for that person. If you're going to give me the level of respect and dignity because we're all trying to get through life, I'll work my butt off for you. But if it's just about an arbitrary number, I'm probably going to lose interest pretty quickly. Not
Yeah.
because I can't do the work, but because it's just arbitrary at that point.
Right. There's no fulfillment behind the work
Exactly.
outside of a paycheck
Right.
and the ticking the years before someone knows your name.
Absolutely. Which is so short-sighted in my estimation. I grew up in a family, again, first person to go to college, and very thankful to my family for that. But part of the narrative that I got from my parents and my dad in particular was, I want you to have everything that I didn't have. Like, I want you to be a better version of myself. And that's how I feel like I want people who work for me, the same sort of like, I want you to be, it doesn't benefit me to be better than you.
Right.
It's like, I should want you to be a better version, like put you in a position to have a higher level of expertise than me, to be a better speaker, like all of those things. It benefits me and it benefits you. So it's never made sense to me, that sort of approach where I'll know your name when you've been here for 7 years. Like
Yeah.
that just doesn't sort of align with my principles, I guess.
And was that the straw that broke the camel's back when you're like, I need to get out and do my own thing? Like, the reason this pattern keeps persisting is because I am meant for entrepreneurship. And is that kind of one of those eye-opening moments that gets you to nth degree CPAs?
Yeah, so the last place I was at was a large regional CPA firm. And when I took that firm, I took a position at that firm under the idea that either I was going to make partner in the next 3 to 5 years. I was clear that that trajectory would be the case, or I'm going to start my own thing. And about 18 months in, it became pretty clear that I was not going to make partner in 3 to 5 years. So I was doing some work on the side and kind of preparing to go out to my own venture. And one of my colleagues wanted to join me. He went out and did some marketing and went to a networking group. And that got back to the managing partner of the firm. And so he was terminated. And then I don't know if he shared how the managing partner found out that I was kind of involved. So I got called into his office and he said, Dan, I'm going to give you a choice. You need to commit to staying here for at least the next 5 years, if not longer, or you should resign. But I don't think you have the skill set to ever be successful enough for you to do this on your own. And I said, I appreciate that feedback. Would you like me to give 2 weeks, or is today my last day? And so that was the final sort of catalyst. And that's
Holy smokes.
that's a snapshot into my personality as well, and upbringing of
Yeah.
If you're going to bet against, if you're telling me I don't have the skill set, then you're to do it on my own. Then you're also telling me I don't have the skill set to ever do anything significant in your organization. Like,
Right.
you back me into a corner, and I'm going to bet on myself.
You're going to constantly be looking at me without potential. And why even have people in your body, in your business, if you don't see potential in every single one of them? To literally tell someone that you just will never cut it. Why did you hire me in the first place? Like that, what a eye-opening experience. Like, indeed.
I think this is the sort of sycophantian way that people talk to you in these big monolithic firms, which is, I'm the partner and you need to be kind of subservient to me. I've heard it's evolved a bit in recent years out of kind of necessity. I don't know that he actually meant that I didn't have the potential, like the technical skills, etc., because clearly he knew what I've worked on up to this point.
Right.
I think it's his way of like, I'm going to dominate you into like submission of sorts and thinking that you need me or you have to stay here. It's a weird subversive kind of mental game that's played in some of those types of environments. I was just not, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I
You're like,
was,
this isn't for me.
yeah, that's
This
not for
isn't for me.
me. Then a few
You
years later, he was trying to figure out how I was hiring the talent that they couldn't get.
good for you.
Yeah, it was,
Good
we had
for
a lunch
you.
meeting. He's like, how are you doing this? Like, I don't think you're ready for the answer.
Yeah, I
It's-
would say based off of our off-air time and what we've talked about on air is it does not seem like he understands the way of business today, or at least not then.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. At least the way, especially when you're thinking about hiring, right? So I don't want to deviate too much because I want to dive into your world a little bit more. But when we think about hiring and we're looking at our current workforce and our upcoming workforce, what was working 10 years ago and what would draw people in, capture them, and keep them is completely different.
Mm.
And I'm sure there are some little, nuances between industries that don't mirror and them, each other. But overall, that attitude is not going to fly. Okay, you mentioned your gritty upbringing. You mentioned your father's influence. You mentioned some of your earliest career, lessons. I kind of want to take a quick trip down memory lane. I have this reverse crystal ball that I like to keep right here. It's really my microphone, but I have this reverse crystal ball, and I always like to kind of go back into time and just take a look at if we could be a fly on the wall on Dan as like a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, somewhere in that time. What would we be seeing? What would you be doing, talking to, looking at, doing? What was little Dan like?
Yeah, there's a kind of a duplicit element to my childhood. I was both painfully shy, speech problem, just really bad buck teeth. So struggling with that, and at the same point, very entrepreneurial and very competitive. It's like I wanted to prove myself. So at 7 or 8, this dates me a little bit. 7 or 8, I was trying to convince my parents of why I should have a paper route because I had run while walking to school. I have this very vivid memory of walking to school and running the numbers in my head of how much I could make, which is like $100. But as like a 7 or 8 year old in the
Yeah,
late 80s, early 90s, it's like, wow, like this. And
that's
so
a
my
lot of
parents,
Slurpees.
yeah, exactly. And so my parents were like, when you turn uh, 12, we can talk about you having a paper route. So when I turned 12, it's like, hey, how about that paper route? So, and then I got a paper route, Seattle Times, and it's a hard gig, seven
Yeah.
days a week. It's what at the time it was five. It was you deliver Monday through Friday in the afternoons, and then Saturday, Sunday on the weekends. So I had a whole business plan, and I was on how I was going to like grow this route, and I was doing these handmade holiday cards. I made most of the money because I'd give these handmade holiday cards, and then I'd get these for me huge tips from everyone on my route. It's like I made sixty
I
percent
love
of the money on the paper route for
I
people who
love
are
the
like, "Thank
extra
you."
effort.
Yeah. So, uh, so I was sort of building confidence from that, and then I got into DECA, the like
Mm,
business program in high school,
yeah.
and that's what really reaffirms that business was the direction that I wanted to go in. This will expose my level of nerdom if I haven't already, given the fact I mentioned doing this fellowship and stuff. I there's a regional competition, then you go to state, and there's national competition, and it's a combination of a test and a presentation. And the national competition, they pick like the top 10, and they have to go and present a second time. And so at the time, I didn't, and there's scholarships at stake, which was a big deal for me. Again, being kind of the first person in the family to go to college. And so I made it to the national stage, thought I had crushed it, didn't end up making it to the top 10. And then 2 weeks later, we got a note, hey, our apologies. We miscalculated. You got the highest score in the nation on your test. And they're supposed to take the test times 2 plus your presentation score. And then we had a calculation error and we didn't double your score. So basically you were going to finish first overall from your like test. But
Yeah.
instead of a scholarship, here's a sheet of paper that you can hang on your wall that is like a consolation prize for what would have been, because they'd already given out the money. They were going to take it back from some other kid. But it was a very like reaffirming, even though I was frustrated by that. It was like a reaffirming of like, I'm headed in the right direction. I should have more self-confidence.
Though the like, I mean, I'm appalled for you. And the fact that you were able to have the wherewithal then, and I'm sure there was some extra emotions going on, but the wherewithal to be like, you know what? It didn't work out that way, but it still worked out because you got that validation from it. But holy smokes, I can't believe that they even admitted the error.
Yeah.
I guess in the end, it's better that they did, but to have already awarded that, and oh my gosh, how heartbreaking.
I only took it, it's strange. I only took it as validation. I
Good for
don't
you.
remember being frustrated. I think I was so hungry for validation, if I'm being honest, at that point, of just like
Yeah.
being such a shy kid and uh, then kind of coming out of that and doing well, presenting, overcoming this like speech problem. Every once in a while, you might see me like stumble on a word here or there, but uh, I only felt the validation. I don't know why. When I think back on it now, I'm like, I could have really used that money. But at the time,
Yeah.
it's just uh, I needed that like confidence boost.
Well, I think it's telling of your personality and your character as well. You know, there's people who can choose to look at situations as failure and as negative, or they can look at it as opportunity and in a positive way.
Mm.
And even at a young age, even in a moment where, for even myself, I'd feel so much defeat and frustration, you chose the path of opportunity and positivity and saw something good from it, right? That validation. You pulled something that you needed out of it, even if the original need or desire was a scholarship, you
Mm.
know? So I think that's a huge testament to your character. And it also, like you said, it gave you that validation and confidence to do this enormous thing that you're doing now, which, you know, I've loved how long we've been chatting so far, but I really want to dive into like you have. If you're not watching this on YouTube, guys, jump over to YouTube because we've got Dan and behind him, he's got a book. I want to dive into the book he's got, Rigging the Game. He's also got the unconventional wealth screen behind him because I just love the idea of unconventional wealth. We have, you hear me talk about getting out of our boxes, getting into the unconventional worlds, right? Getting out, you know, don't throw away some of the things that aren't broken, but right, realize that there are unconventional things we can do. So I want to shush here. I want you to just share with people what is going on in your world. What are all the amazing things you're doing that we need to be a part of? And what is the easiest way to kind of get into your world?
Yeah. So what I've seen over the last 4 years in particular is business owners being in a tremendous amount of pain. And there's some obvious things around that, of course, COVID. But worse so than all of that, from a financial perspective, is that uh, folks got themselves further into debt. So many of us as business owners, we treated the money that was coming in, those PPP funds or economic injury development loans, as windfalls, as if it was sort of this new ongoing recurring revenue. Like we've made it. Well, all of a sudden we've woken up one night and we've got hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in our account, and we're like, we finally made it. And so they up leveled their lifestyles pretty significantly. They got the second house, the nicer cars, moved their kids into private school. But because that money was one time, not recurring, they don't now have that ongoing revenue stream to pay for it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm seeing business owners in significant cash crunches, liquidity challenges, solvency challenges. And in large part, it's because we haven't been given the tools to actually manage our finances. And many of us suffer from a term I made up called business multiple personality disorder, which is you listen to a new podcast, you pick up a new book, and now you're that person. Like now I'm the 10x person. Now I'm the this person. I got to do that. Now I'm the hustle. And you keep changing the way that you do business, and none of it actually reflects your authentic
Mm.
style. And so it's a
Mhm.
very fragile approach. I say in my book, unless you're a sociopath, it's going to be really difficult to pretend you're someone that you're not for a long period of time. It's a recipe for blowing yourself up. And that's
Mhm.
where I see people doing it in repeat. So I recently developed something called the 5 wealth types. See, we've been taught that we're either savers or spenders. Almost everything in finance and in the world is some sort of all or nothing
Yeah.
construct. It's like rigid or chaos. And we know that it's never the case. It's always in somewhere in the middle. And we can think of people who are savers who make big one-time expenses. We can think about, and vice versa. So clearly it's not one or the other. So I
Yeah.
developed these 5 wealth types. They're the hustler, gambler, optimizer, saver, and outsourcer. And the idea is that you can go through this quick assessment and find out your wealth type. But the point is not that there's something wrong with your wealth type. It's rather, how can we play to that strength and then implement the couple of things I give each person, each wealth type, 5 things they should do now to prevent yourself from blowing up. So how can I still play to my strengths, but eliminate those downsides, those couple of things that I'm going to do that are going to cause me a bunch of chaos later. And so that's what that impacts the way we serve people as CPA clients. That impacts the way that I'm serving people in all of our businesses now, because we're getting closer to meeting them at their individual point of need.
That I am so excited. So the 5 wealth types, because that is so true for even conversations I've had with my husband about who's the spend, like there's,
Mhm.
TikTok memes going on or reels or whatever you want to call
Yep.
them. That makes me sound like such an old person. I don't know these lingos, but there's these videos out there saying, oh, there's someone in the relationship who's a this and someone who's a that. It is always very black and white. And so for people who are really like myself right now in this moment, drawn to this idea of wanting to learn what their wealth type is there a tool or is there a quiz on a website that we can go
Yep.
and take? Tell me more about how to get into this, part of your world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can get into my world. You just go to wealthtype.com, and it's going to tell you what the 4 wealth killers, there's 4 wealth killers. So it's going to tell you what those are. And then you can click on a button and there's a 15 question assessment. There's no cost to take the assessment. It will tell you what your wealth type is at the end of that and give you a kind of initial report of things for you to consider.
Absolutely love it. So say the URL again. We'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's wealthtype.com.
Wealthtype.com. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. I said it on episodes before. I'm going to say it again and reinforce, guys. When guests come on and either offer their time or their tools or their resources, such as the wealthtype.com quiz that you can take, please go take advantage of that, because the brain, the time, the experience, the knowledge, and the value that you get out of these gifts, truly gifts that my guests bring to the table for you all, they are not to be taken lightly. And the other thing is, as a podcast listener, I really want to encourage you, yes, be motivated, be inspired, hear the passion, hear the purpose from my guests, but now take it the step further, grab the phone, get on the computer, unless you're driving, be safe, keep driving. But later, go to wealthtype.com and take action. It's one thing to hear it, it's another to do it. I know my listeners, I know you want to make change. I know you want to lead passion and purpose through your business. Things like what Dan is bringing to the table are the things you need to understand yourself, look introspectively, and truly take advantage of that. Take action with that. So, Dan, thank you for creating such a really cool tool. I'm super stoked to go check it out. Before we wrap, I just have a final question. I'm curious, and I know you have so many aspects of your brand. Guys, if you're not watching on YouTube, you don't see Rigging the Game in the background. That is Dan's book, right? If you aren't checking out, go check out the wealth types, but also nth degree CPAs. If you're looking for a CPA firm, right? Check in with Dan. Also, his personal brand and conventional wealth. He's just changing the mindset around what we need to be thinking about when it comes to our business finances, our personal finances, wealth in general. Just get into his world. He's a gift to their business community, and I really hope everyone takes advantage of that. So with all of that said, Dan, what is next for you? What's next in your brand?
Ooh, what is next in my brand? Really want to change the financial wellness world. And it starts for me with the wealth types, and in particular, helping people relate to each other in a different and better way. So maybe you find out that you're a hustler and you find out that your husband is an optimizer. Again, there's no right or wrong one. I'm just randomly picking those.
Right.
I don't know. But what it does, because I've started doing this at live events and stuff where we've had people take the wealth type assessment and we put them into their groups and they do this little case study and then they present it. And then what's your observation? And their observation is, well, I'm over here at the gambler table, but my business partner spouse is over at the outsourcer table. And now I understand why we have these specific conflicts. So you can use it to get closer to the people that you care about, make better decisions. And ultimately, as I said in the beginning, live life on your terms, because the biggest risk in life is not living the life that you want.
Absolutely. I can't wrap that up any better than that. Dan, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me, this rainy afternoon that we both get to have in Washington. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Likewise. All right, guys, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. I truly hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. So if you did, please rate, review, and share. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, whether a leader or an expert, please go to getvim.com/podcast and you will find our application page, or reach out to me directly and I can give you more information.